You don't see it on a bill. No notification. No receipt. No moment where someone asks for permission. But every single day, it takes money from you. Not all at once. That would be obvious. It happens slowly, quietly, systematically. And by the time most people realize what's happening, it's already too late. Because the system was never designed for you to notice it in the first place. This is the silent tax. And it doesn't just take from you. It rewards someone else. Picture this. You wake up. You go to work. You earn money. It feels straightforward, clean, fair. You trade time for income. You save a portion. You plan for the future. That's the deal, right? Work hard. Be responsible. Stay disciplined. And over time, you'll build security. But there's a flaw in that logic. A quiet one. Because the value of what you earn is not stable. And no one really emphasizes that part. Let's rewind. 100 years ago, money behaved differently. Not perfectly, but differently. Currencies were tied, in some way, to something physical. Gold, silver, tangible limits. There were constraints. Today, there aren't. Modern money is elastic. It expands. And when something expands, its value changes. But here's the trick. Prices don't rise all at once. They move unevenly, quietly, in waves. And because of that, inflation doesn't feel like a single event. It feels like life just getting harder. Think about the last 5 years. Rent, food, fuel, healthcare. Each increase felt small at first, manageable. Then suddenly, it wasn't. But no one sends you a message saying, your purchasing power has dropped 20%. Instead, your lifestyle adjusts. You cut here, delay there. Maybe you don't notice immediately. That's what makes it powerful. And dangerous. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Inflation is not just rising prices. It's a transfer from one group to another. And the people who benefit from it are not the ones earning a salary. Let's break the mechanism. When new money enters the system, it doesn't appear everywhere at once. It enters at specific points. Banks, financial institutions, large corporations, governments, they get access first. And that matters more than people realize. Because when they receive that money, prices haven't adjusted yet. Assets are still cheap. Stocks, real estate, land, businesses, they buy early. Then the money spreads. And as it spreads, prices begin to rise. Slowly, then faster. By the time it reaches ordinary people, the prices have already moved. That's the delay. That's the gap. And inside that gap, wealth is transferred. This is sometimes called the first access advantage, but you don't need the terminology. Just imagine a line. At the front of the line, people who receive money first. At the back of the line, everyone else. By the time you get your turn, everything costs more. Same effort, same work. Less outcome. Now layer something else on top. Wages. Wages don't adjust instantly. They lag. Companies take time to raise salaries, sometimes years, sometimes never. So while prices move quickly, income moves slowly. That gap widens. And that gap is where the silent tax lives. There's an irony here. The system tells you to save money. Be cautious. Be responsible. Don't take risks. But if inflation is constantly reducing the value of money, then saving cash is quietly punished. Not dramatically, just consistently. A few percent each year. But over time, that compounds. And compounding works both ways. Let's put numbers to it. If inflation averages 6% a year, your money loses roughly half its value in about 12 years. Half. That means everything you've saved buys 50% less. No crisis, no headline, just math. Now compare that to assets. Stocks tend to rise with inflation. Real estate often rises faster. Why? Because they are tied to the same system that expands money. So while cash loses value, assets absorb it and grow. That's not an accident. That's the design. So now you have two groups, people who hold assets and people who hold cash. One group sees prices rise and benefits. The other sees prices rise and struggles. Same economy, different outcomes. Here's where the story gets more subtle. Inflation doesn't affect everything equally. Some prices rise faster than others. Housing might surge. Education might explode. Healthcare might spike unpredictably, while other things stay relatively stable. This creates confusion because people don't experience inflation the same way. One person says, "It's not that bad." Another says, "Everything is unaffordable." They're just looking at different parts of the system. And then there's perception. If your salary goes up 5% and inflation is 6%, you feel like you're moving forward. But you're not. You're slightly behind. And that difference is almost invisible, which is exactly why it works. Now, let's zoom out. Why does this system exist? Why allow something that quietly erodes value? The answer is not simple, but it is logical. Inflation encourages spending. If money loses value over time, people are less likely to hold it. They spend, they invest, they move capital. That keeps the economy active. On paper, that's good, but it comes with a cost. And that cost is not evenly distributed. There's also another incentive: debt. Inflation makes debt easier to repay. If you borrow money today and pay it back later with cheaper dollars, you benefit, which means large borrowers often win. Governments, corporations, they carry massive debt. And inflation quietly reduces its real burden. Again, not an accident. Now, contrast that with individuals. If you don't own assets and you don't use debt strategically, you're exposed fully. No protection, just erosion. Here's the uncomfortable part most people avoid. The system doesn't need you to understand it. It functions whether you see it or not. And in some ways, it works better if you don't, because once you see it, your behavior changes. You stop thinking of money as stable. You start questioning savings, income, timing. You start noticing patterns, and patterns reveal incentives. Let's talk about timing. During periods of high inflation, assets often surge first. Markets rise. Property values climb. Then, eventually, everything else catches up. But by that time, the opportunity window has narrowed. Those who moved early benefit most. Those who reacted late absorb the cost. And this cycle repeats, not perfectly, but consistently. Different decades, same structure. Money expands. Assets rise. Prices follow. Wages lag. And through it all, the silent tax continues. There's a subtle psychological effect, too. People anchor to nominal values, their salary number, their bank balance. If those numbers go up, they feel secure, even if purchasing power is declining. It's a kind of illusion, not deliberate, but persistent. And it keeps the system stable. Because if everyone focused on real value instead of nominal value, the reactions might be very different. Now, look at the public narrative. You'll hear phrases like, "Inflation is under control. The economy is growing. Wages are increasing." All technically true, but incomplete, because they don't tell you who benefits most and who falls behind. And that's the gap between perception and reality. On the surface, progress. Underneath, redistribution. Quiet, gradual, ongoing. So where does that leave the average person? Working, saving, planning, following the rules they were given, but playing a game where the rules quietly shift over time. This isn't about panic. It's not about blaming one institution or another. It's about clarity, because once you see the mechanism, you can't unsee it. Money is not just a tool. It's a system, and like any system, it has incentives. It rewards certain behaviors, punishes others, not loudly, but consistently. And the silent tax? It's not going away. It's built into the structure, which raises a question most people never ask. If the value of money is always changing, if the system quietly transfers wealth over time, then what does it actually mean to save? And more importantly, who exactly is your money working for while you think it's sitting still?